You just summarized, without knowing it, really my entire book and the hypothesis behind it. Conspiracy theorist was not actually used very prominently until only recently. That word conspiracy certainly has been around for a long time, but not conspiracy theorist. Misinformation is a fairly new term as well. The idea of the emergency, that has been central to every single rise of dictatorship in the 20th century. This is a classic case of whether you want to call it the left, the totalitarian, authoritarian regime, but this is the playbook for taking control of a population. You announce a threat, perhaps you create it yourself. You then declare a state of emergency necessary to control the threat. And then anyone that questions either the threat or the means to end the threat, which is always the cessation of liberties, anybody who questions that is then called fill in the blank, counter-revolutionary, a misinformation propagandist, a conspiracy theorist. And you know what we do with those people? We shut them up, we put them in jail, and eventually we execute them. That's been true for every single regime in the 20th century. And there has been no exception, and I challenge anyone to find one, no exception to the dissolution of the first liberty, which is the freedom of speech, in any dictatorship. Name me a dictatorship that allowed freedom of speech. There is none. And that's what's happening now. It didn't start 2 years ago. It started 40 or 50 years ago. We've had constant explosions of so-called crises, feminist crisis of men trying to rape women, toxic masculinity. The environment is going to collapse in 7 years. No, I mean 14. No, I mean 21. No, I mean 28. Rape culture. 2/3 of women are sexually assaulted on campus, but I'm still sending my daughter to college. Really? Maybe you don't really believe that. Trump is going to be a fascist. He's going to clamp down on our liberties. He's not going to allow us to do anything. Well, we had the most free country under Trump than under any president than in my lifetime. You want to talk about fascism? The definition of fascism is collusion of private industry, corporatism, and government. That is the definition of fascism. That is what we're living under right now. Right now. So all these people that were crying fascist, fascist during the Trump years, where are they now? Where are they? Crickets. Nobody's willing to call it out. So this has been progressing for decades and decades and decades, and it's not new. This is not new. It's just a new incorporation of what's been happening for the last 100 years. We're just in the thick of it right now. And so many people are blind because their allegiance is so strong to a political party that they're not willing to accept that they've been duped, that they've been had, and that there's a small number of people, a small number of truly evil, destructive people, the left, the Antifa, the BLM, the Marxists, that are taking over the lives of every other American, whether you're conservative or liberal or independent. We, the conservative, independent, liberal majority, vast majority of Americans, have far more in common with each other than we do with this small percentage on the left that is trying to destroy all of our lives. And it's the liberals, the naive but well-intentioned liberals, who are facilitating this because they think their enemy is conservatives. Their enemy is not conservatives. Their enemy is the left. Their enemy is authoritarianism and fascism.